excuse me, Adam Nieberg.
All right, we have a nomination for Member Niebuhr. Any other nominations? May I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, member. I will turn it over to Chair King.
Thank you. Number 4. Thank you, Councilor Gibson. We will proceed with the agenda. October 2025 Joint Finance and Audit Operations and Safety Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, if there's no one opposed, the motion passes.
Committee Chair King, could you please use your mic?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Next are presentations. The first is the Operation Maintenance Monthly Metrics Report for October, November, and December 2025 from Mr. Anthony Hayward, Director of Bus Operations, Mr. James Secor, Director of Paratransit, and Mr. Nicholas Goulsborn, Director of Fleet Maintenance, Dale Smith, Director of Facilities, and Mr. Richard Campbell, Chief Safety Officer.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Directors, CEOs Drainville, and staff. I am Anthony Hayward. I'm the Director of Bus Operations. I'm going to go over our October, November, and December metric numbers. We'll start with our on-time performance trends for all 4 modes. As we can see, for a fixed route, we stayed steady in our 70th percentile. Had a slight dip in our paratransit, which Mr. Sakor will go over when he presents later in this presentation. Our overall ridership numbers for October, November, and December. For the most part, we stayed pretty much steady for our 3-month situation. We had a slight dip in November and December, but we believe that contributed to our holiday schedule, schools being out, for our ridership dipping for the month for November and December. A 6-month trend, again, as we can see for our ridership, in of course October it was 9,020, but it dropped down a real significant amount. But again, we contribute that to we didn't have school in session. We ran holiday schedules, so that really contributed to our low ridership for the month of November and December. But we anticipate our stuff coming back to normal come January. Again, our weekday ridership, again, our strongest route is the Route 1. These numbers are reflective of course, our fare-free ridership for Route 1. We'll have later numbers in the springtime to see how much, if any, of a ridership dip we have for Route 1. But we don't really anticipate that happening because we still have, we changed our frequency on the Route 1, so we still believe that most of our ridership will stay on that Route 1 aspect. So our ridership will stay high, probably still lead our numbers. Again, for our on-time performance, we stayed in the 70 percentile again for the month of October, November, and December. That's contributed to working with my service development department and working on our routes, trimming, cutting run times, as well as working on maintenance, making sure we have buses that are not breaking down in the middle of the route, or we start out early in our fixed route so we are able to make and maintain. With our new Clever CAD coming in this year, we anticipate our numbers to continue to grow and be higher than these currently right now. Again, our top 5 performance, again, the Route 1, the 6, and 34 are steady, consistent routes that are heavily, that we use. Our ridership is really heavy, and based off our on-time performance, depending on service development and how we trim our routes and stuff like that, really affects our on-time performance. So we're looking to continue to partner with our service development department to continue to have better numbers in our on-time performance. Most importantly, in the fixed route department, we want to complete all our trips. So we stayed steady across our board in October, November. in December at 99 percentile. Again, that small percent is, things do happen in transportation, so it's hard to avoid, but we are very proud that we do complete majority of our trips. And with that, I can answer any questions you have.
I don't have a question, I just have a statement.
Please, go ahead.
99%, phenomenal work, and I just want to commend you that you're getting the job done, and the effect that the on-time performance is, let's continue to remain in a good place as well, so good job for the team.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm getting accustomed to seeing the total data, and I'm assuming that that total data is collected via the APC, and it's not in any way impacted by how people pay. Is that a true statement?
That's true, yeah, that's
True statement. And then, of course, Route 1, primary route, greatest investment, greatest number of buses. I guess it would be helpful in at least my opinion, and then also in the context of some of our discussions with the COA, to have some context of, like I see Route 1, for example, in October had 5,311 riders, but that was against X number of bus opportunities, whereas something like the 24 or 25 LX has 70 to 80 riders. How can I interpret that against the number of opportunities for somebody to get on that bus? I'm having trouble articulating that question, but maybe that's enough for you to know what I mean.
Well, the 24 and the 25 is an express route, so it doesn't run all day. So you really can't compare it to most of our routes that run all day in the number aspect. So when you see the 25 and 24 and our guys talk about the ridership, it's really talk about 3 trips in the morning, 3 trips in the afternoon. Okay. So versus all our other routes that run almost 24 hours a day, from 3 a.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning in some cases.
And so 3 trips, 70 to 80 riders per day, assuming Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And then Route 1, which has a bus every, 20 minutes to
Well,
each
now
one of
it
the
does,
stops?
yes.
Yeah, okay. And so these are gross numbers of people that get on those buses for any one of those routes, and it doesn't break, your data doesn't break it down on a per trip basis. No. Would it be possible to get access to that layer of data just so that I could keep these numbers in relative context?
We can see if we can work on that and try
Okay.
to get something for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Hayward? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, CEO Drainville. Good morning, committee members. My name is James Secor, and I'm going to go over our numbers for Q1. All right. This slide illustrates our total paratransit trip volume for the quarter. We completed about a little over 50,000 trips for the quarter. As you can see, our trip count peaked in the month of October and dropped by 20% in November due to school being out. Our education trips account for 20 to 25% of our daily totals. In December, the trip count bounced back with an increase of 10%, even with school being out during the holidays. Seasonal patterns affect the trip volume, but the overall trend reflects a growing demand for paratransit services. Our on-time performance remains one of our most critical measures of success. Our OTP for Q1 of FY26 was 85% overall. This metric tells us how effectively we are balancing capacity, scheduling, and service delivery. It also shows us how close we are to maximum capacity. While there are always operational challenges beyond our control, traffic, no-shows, or late cancellations, we've implemented several strategies to maintain consistent reliability. Continuous coordination between customer service, dispatch, scheduling, and operators remains key to improving this metric forward. moving forward. As we look to next quarter, our priorities remain consistent, improving on-time performance, maximizing vehicle utilization, and ensuring riders feel supported throughout the service process. With the addition of our SUVs and ongoing training, I'm confident we'll continue to make measurable progress. That's all I have for my presentation, and I'm open for any questions.
Yes. Mr.
Thank you.
Hatfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this presentation. For paratransit, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know we were experiencing some issues as it relates to expense and costs for providing the service. And I understand that maybe PSTA had a model where once an individual reached a cap, then there was a fee for utilizing the service. Not to put you on the spot, but what are your thoughts coming into 2026 as far as how we're currently providing the service, and is there something that we can do to improve that maybe models what PSTA is doing?
So that model is actually for our customer choice program, which is operated by Yellow Cab. And so we augmented their service hours to get those costs down. So they're currently operating Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 and 5. So we are looking at making modifications with this next RFP. And so we're actually going through that process now on how we're gonna, move forward. But FY26, it should stay consistent. But our demand continues to grow for the HART Plus paratransit. One of the things we did is we limited the amount of, with the augmentation of hours for Yellow Cab, that limits the amount of trips that we can actually give to Yellow Cab. So that's part of the reason you're seeing the increase in the HART Plus trip count.
Will we operate in the positive, or will we operate in the negative as it relates to operational costs compared to revenue?
Yeah, we're in the positive. We're matter of fact, we're right up against the budgeted amount. So we budgeted 2.5 for FY26, which is a little over about $180,000 per month. So we're right where we need to be currently. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Understanding question on the paratransit, we track pickup and drop-off on time.
Yes, sir.
It's not a statement I've heard applied to something like the fixed route. What is it about paratransit and that requires us to track both pickup time, on-time performance, and delivery time, on-time performance? And does that same logic apply to when we use Yellow Cab in the paratransit category?
Now with Yellow Cab, that's a little different because they're doing on demand. So they have a 30-minute window for trips. So if someone calls Yellow Cab for a 9 o'clock pickup, or if they call them right now, Yellow Cab has 30 minutes to get to that trip. With paratransit though, the customers have an opportunity to either book their trips or reserve their rides based on either appointment times or pickup times. So if they have an appointment by 10 a.m., then we're tracking how well we're getting them to their appointments on time. Others, they book it by the times they want to be picked up. And so that 30-minute window is from the time they want to be picked up 30 minutes prior.
So that's interesting. So then those are independent. We don't track both on a single trip. We track one or the other based on how the qualifying resident requested that trip.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Secor.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Mr. Drainville, Chiefs. My name is Nicholas Colburn. I am the Director of Fleet Maintenance. I'll be presenting your maintenance monthly metrics for October, November, and December. Preventive maintenance. The preventive maintenance program remains a strong point of the program. For the months of October, November, and December, We completed 301 inspections. Off those inspections, we had 300 completed in time. For October, our on-time compliance was 100%. For November, it was 100%. In December, we came in at 99.8%. Our average OTP for preventive maintenance and safety inspections for the entire quarter was 99.8%. Fixed route system reliability. Fixed route reliability remained stable through most of the quarter and was supported by consistent preventive maintenance execution and targeted corrective repairs. While reliability metrics benefited from proactive programs earlier in the quarter, December began to show stress as technician availability declined. Despite these constraints, fleet maintenance continued prioritizing road calls, safety critical defects, and pull-out readiness to minimize service disruptions. Overall, the program's meeting the majority of its goal month over month. Fixed route fleet availability. Before I go into this slide, I want to recognize one of our technicians. ASC certified master technician Nicholas Colwood was scheduled to be on his vacation on the week of December 8th. Mr. Colwood canceled his vacation days to come in to help us to make pullout that morning. It didn't matter whether he stayed home or he came in. It would have been the same pay. But he gave up his time, which is selfless service. Unfortunately, Nicholas couldn't be here today. He's not feeling well, but I definitely wanted to call him out and show appreciation because we do have folks that understand that their daily job benefits the community. They understand that customers rely on what we do, rely on them showing up. So, Mr. Colwood, you're recognized.
Nicholas,
Colwood.
spell the last name for me.
C-O-W-O-O-D. December's decline in fleet availability was driven primarily by a critical lack of available technicians. At the time, fleet maintenance had 6 vacant full-time positions, 3 technicians on workers' comp, and 1 out on FMLA. So going into the pullouts, we had a really hard time just from not having the labor availability. Nonetheless, the entire team was phenomenal. Data from that month showed they were returning work orders, 80% of their work orders were completed within 24 hours. So the vehicles come back to the base, they get repaired, and they go back out. Overall, we're starting to see some recovery. October, we came in at 78.9%, and then 79.9% in November. Then we declined to 75% for December. Next, I want to talk about our paratransit vehicle availability. Similar to the fixed route service, the maintenance department is obligated to provide vehicles for the AM pullout and afternoon pullout for the paratransit service. Paratransit vehicle availability during Q1 2026 reflects early gains from our new paratransit availability business plan, which was implemented in October 26. The objective of this plan is to reliably meet the daily service requirements of 55 vans by intentionally targeting and maintaining a buffer of 60 additional vans available for service each day. Following implementation, availability improved from October, average of 51 vehicles to 56 vehicles in November, demonstrating the immediate effectiveness of the strategy. While December averaged 54 vehicles and fell slightly below the 55 van daily target, it remained materially stronger than pre-planned performance and occurred during the period of significant technician shortages. These results confirm that the business plan is working as designed. When staffing levels fall, when staff levels pick up, we're able to maintain our pre-planned target of 55 to 60 vehicles on a monthly basis. That's our estimation. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Good good call out on your employees. Just Mr. Colwood in recognizing his work to come in on vacation days. And typically, we do want people to take their vacation time, but just for him to realize that, hey, that people are trying to get to where they need to be, and the importance of that, he recognizes that as an employee, and just want to just echo your sentiments and thank him for his commitment to HART and the folks there. And then you double down on that and said the rest of your team as well. So thank you for recognizing your team. You know, we've had a number of people come up to that podium and talk about the work and some of the trials and tribulations that take place. But to hear the recognition of your employees is just a testament to the work that's happening behind the scenes. And so I'd like to hear more of that, and thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you. I believe as a department head, empathy and appreciation are key to what we do. So if they're doing the hard work, I definitely want to recognize them.
The chair recognizes Director Hatfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two things for you, Nicholas. Great presentation. First is workforce. I know, similar to most of industry, you're facing some challenges as it relates to workforce.
Yes, we are.
What are we doing in that regard? And I got a follow-up question to that, but what are we doing as it relates to workforce and building a pipeline?
That's a very good question. I have a good answer for you, sir. So what we're doing is we're aggressively recruiting, but at the same time, the industry is transitioning more towards developing in-house talent. So going into the current CBA negotiation, we added language for a registered apprenticeship program. My team last week submitted our curriculum and our application to the Department of Education to officially recognize our program at a state level. This program will give current staff and folks in the community who are looking for a career an opportunity to develop the skills necessary for the nationwide shortages. Additionally, within our low-no application, we have a section earmarked for apprenticeship programs. So with the Department of Education recognition, I'm going to bite my tongue, and the funding that we're going to receive from the low-no, we're going to be able to position ourselves to be a leader within the community as far as developing skilled programs for technicians. We've also worked with HCC. We go to HCC, we present to their students. We also bring them to our facilities where they can get a tour, they spend a day to see, they learn about how transit operate, what we do differently from other conventional fleets. We also, being the leader statewide for natural gas vehicles, our trainer goes to their program and presents at a technical level natural gas compression engines. So we're trying to build talent.
That's really good. Thank you. Second part to that question. Thank you. That's excellent. The second part to that question is that as you continue to build your workforce, one of the things that you identified is that you have a strong culture. I would ask that you work with CEO Drainville to provide training to your staff to maintain that culture, because as you bring new people in, the culture is going to shift if they're not trained in terms of what the expectation is. So one of the gentlemen that I work with, and he's actually a vendor for us, Oscar Horton with Sun State or Sunstar Trucking. He does a great presentation as it relates to culture. And it may be good to have someone external to the organization to present on culture, to take you and, well, Mr. Drainville and your vision as it relates to the culture that you've built, and then continue just to train on that and make sure that it sticks. There's always going to be drift. So either quarterly or semi-annually, training on that culture, because you have a solid culture and you don't want that to drift with new employees. So kudos to you, great job. But those are two thoughts that I had. And yeah.
I got it. We have a relationship with Sun State. They're at my facility almost every week, so we can have those conversations.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Congratulations. Committee members, Mr. Drainville, HART staff. I'm Dale Smith, Director of Facilities, and I'll be presenting the quarterly update on the Facilities Department. We'll begin with a snapshot of work orders completed by our route maintenance team. Preventive maintenance work orders for the team include bus stop equipment inspections and shelter pressure washing. Production was above average in October and December, but slightly below average in November due to staffing shortages. I'm pleased to report that we have hired 4 new employees and are now fully staffed. The demand response work orders for route maintenance were above average throughout the quarter. These work orders include patron requests, C-click fix responses, and our general bus stop repairs. The Facilities Department work orders. Preventive maintenance is our proactive approach that helps prevent equipment failures, extend asset life cycles, and reduce the likelihood of unexpected outages. Although November numbers were slightly below average due to the holidays, both October and December exceeded the average. Our demand work orders, which include unscheduled repairs, projects, and service requests, were completed above average for each month of the quarter. We had a contractor out on site to install a storage shed outside of Base 6. This shed is going to be used for equipment storage, reducing clutter inside the shop and improving overall safety by creating an open work environment in our shop. The square footage out in that shop is minimal, and this helps us keep unused equipment out of sight. This contractor also installed a new covered shelter at the Yukon Park and Ride for our training department. This structure provides a shaded, weather-protected gathering area for employees during training sessions as they're training for their CDL licenses. Additionally, we had a contract to repair a large area of asphalt damage near the preventive maintenance building at 21st Avenue. This damage was caused by standing water along the curb, happening from excessive rains and coil cleaning activities that go on in that building. To prevent future issues, a curb cut was added to improve drainage, and the asphalt was sloped to allow the proper water flow. At 21st Avenue, a new pedestrian walkway was installed at the facility's entrance to provide a safe path for bus operators and staff accessing the Route 6 bus stops. This project included protective safety bollards, a clearly striped walkway, upgraded lighting, and enhanced visibility and safety during evening hours. The Facilities Department assembled and installed new break room furniture in the preventive maintenance building. This improves comfort and functionality for staff taking their breaks. The team also painted water fountains, pedestrian walkways, and planter beds at the University Area Transit Center. This is part of our ongoing beautification program that includes pressure washing, painting, tree trimming, and these projects were selected directly in response to the feedback we obtained during our employee engagement survey. In this slide, we had Extreme Painting come out and complete a project in the AC bay of the heavy maintenance building. This included pressure washing, priming, and painting the walls with a bright white finish to improve visibility. The project also included relamping all the light fixtures in the bay, significantly enhancing safety for staff working during nighttime hours. These are before and after photos. Trillium completed a project to replace motor mounts for our CNG station compressors. One of the 300 horsepower motors had a cracked motor mount due to being undersized from the factory. Based on manufacturer recommendations, all of the undersized mounts were replaced to ensure proper support and long-term reliability. Also, the route maintenance team installed new safety lighting at the Orient Road shelter stop. 2 solar-powered lights were added along the walkway from the transit center out to the Route 48 shelter, improving visibility for patrons. New safety signage was installed inside the streetcar shop area. In the event of an elevator failure, the signage directs employees safely through the streetcar shop to the freight elevator for third floor access. Any visitors needing to use this route would be escorted by staff. The route maintenance team installed 2 new shelters within District 3. The first shelter was installed at 21st Avenue in Nebraska, serving Route 6. The second shelter was installed at Main Street and North Boulevard, serving a new Publix. The route maintenance team also installed 2 new shelters within District 2. The first shelter was located on Dale Mabry Highway at Gaither High School, and the second shelter was located at Dale Mabry and Carrollwood Place. I would also like to extend a special thank you to our BTI program manager, Dwayne Brown. He oversees the design, permitting, and construction process for all of the new ADA-compliant infrastructure that goes on prior to our installation of shelters. This close coordination and teamwork between the PMO and facilities departments ensure that our new bus stops are safe, compliant, fully accessible, and welcoming to our patrons. To date, the route maintenance team has installed 108 of our new style shelters. And by completing these shelters installations in-house, we've been able to stretch our resources further, delivering more shelters to our community. At this time, I'll answer any questions.
Chair recognizes Mr. Niebrich.
Thank you. One quick question on the CNG motor mounts that were
Yes, sir.
identified undersized from the manufacturer that
Yes, sir.
Trillium repaired. How many of those had to be repaired? What resource, how many, or I guess, how much did it cost us to do that? And do we have a recapture opportunity with the manufacturer for those costs?
So we did try to contact Clean Energy. These motor mounts were installed originally and they were out of warranty and compliance, so there was no way to go back to get them. It cost us around $7,000 to replace them, and we went ahead and replaced all 4. There was only one of them that were cracked. We decided it was safer. These are large 300 horsepower motors, and we decided it was much safer. This is the lifeblood of our fueling process, and so we decided to change all the motor mounts.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, no question as to why we replaced it. I just didn't know how much it cost. But you said around $7,000.
$7,000.
About 4 of those things, and then we replaced them out of our own expense.
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
sure.
Mr. Hartfield?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
You have probably one of the most important roles and responsibilities as it relates to operations. Do you feel like you have the resources to do your job effectively? And is the outlook, the future outlook, positive for you?
I think so. I've been here going on 17 years now doing this, and we've improved staff. We've increased staff at certain departments that were required. We work closely with leadership on what we need, and we've gotten everything that we need that we've asked for. So we feel pretty good about where we're at now. We've really reduced the C-click fixed responses we get. Our route maintenance team is out in the field taking care of the shelters. We've cut the responses in half that come through C-click fix, if not even more than 50% over all the years. And I feel pretty good about what our staffing levels are.
Thank you.
Sure.
Questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Sure.
Good morning, Chair, committee members, CEO Drainville. My name is Richard Campbell, and I'll be presenting the safety metrics for October, November, and December. For the fixed route safety, for the month of October, we had 5 safety events, 4 assaults. November, we had 1 injury, 1 safety event, and 5 assaults. And for the month of December, we had 2 injuries to report, 5 safety events, and 2 assaults. Fixed route, as you can see by the graph, for the month of October, we didn't have any safety events. Injuries in the fixed route for November was a 0.19, well under our 1.0 threshold. And for the month of December, a 0.36. For fixed route safety, October, 0.89. For the month of November, 0.19, and for the month of December, 0.90. Paratransit route safety. For October, 2 injuries, 1 safety event. For the month of November, we didn't have anything to report, and for the month of December, 1 assault. Streetcar, nothing for the month of October, 1 safety event for the month of November, and 1 injury for the month of December. As far as preventable and non-preventable accidents, October we had 11 not being rated, 16 preventable accidents, 22 non-preventable, 3 still in the process. For the month of November, 6 not being rated, 4 preventable, 13 non-preventable. And for the month of December, 10 non being rated, 10 preventable, and 21 non-preventable. Any questions?
Yeah, Chair recognizes Director Williams.
Thank you. What does that mean, not rated?
So if we are involved in an accident, as an example, let's say, an operator brushes up against a tree branch, makes contact, we consider that an accident. But if there's no damage, there's obviously no damage to the vehicle, and if the other object, a tree branch or something, there's no no damage or anything like that, then we wouldn't rate it. We bring the operator in, we go over the videos, the evidence, and then we generally don't rate it.
Thank you. Another question I had, I noticed that, very few assaults, but one is too many. When I think about
Absolutely.
an assault, the word itself, it startles me. And the incidences that we have for accidents and so forth. Is there anything else we need to consider beyond the last time we put the panels, I guess the clear panels up around
Correct.
the bus drivers, based on what's happening now or the trends that take place? I guess I'm not clear on what what would be considered as a trend, or what the type of issues or incidences that are happening with where bus drivers are in jeopardy.
So what we generally do is, obviously all operators we go through de-escalation training. We do COAST training, which stands for Continuing Operation and Safety Training, every quarter, and refresher trainings and stuff. Now, I will say, as a kind of a little bit of a misnomer, the assaults, we also consider assaults, it's not necessarily a physical. So the assaults, most of these, off the top of my head, looking at, I think it was October, we had 2 incidents where somebody spit on the shield. We consider that an assault. It didn't touch the operator or anything like that, but it's an aggressive action that is not, is frowned upon. Let's put it that way. So if we're talking about a physical assault, then yes, obviously we count that. And we, thankfully those are pretty rare. But we do have a lot of verbal assaults, or we'll have unfortunately a customer that's unhappy with some sort of policy or rule, and they may hit the glass on the door and break the glass, on the passenger door and stuff like that. So unfortunately, those things do happen.
Thanks. So do you think or is there anything else we need to look at going forward beyond the clear partition at this point? From a safety standpoint?
We do, customer, information, we have announcements, we de-escalate, we have, armed security at the transfer centers. Unfortunately, I will say that, if you look at society, it seems like we're just being a little bit more aggressive, in life than maybe we were many years ago. And we are adapting to that. As far as, anything, we do campaigns, and like I said, we do de-escalation training for operators. It's not their fault, but sometimes they can bring somebody down from the, from their aggressive, manner. But at the end of the day, the shield, security, the supervisors, it all comes together to, to protect the operators the best we can.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about, I'm just trying to forward think based on what's happening versus something happening, then we have to go back and
Absolutely.
put something in place. But it sounds like you are, on top of that and making sure that if there's a need beyond that,
We do
you
look
would-
at trends and
Right.
stuff like that, so we
Okay.
follow the FTA and, guidance and stuff like that.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Mr. Hartfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question for you, Richard. So, given that we've had recent legislation as it relates to guns, how have we responded to that as it relates to our bus and other available transit methodology?
Well, ironically, I was thinking about this the other night, and I'm happy to announce that we have not had a single complaint or issue yet since Florida went to the open carry. I don't think it's as far as transportation. If You know, if you're going to the transit center to look for trouble, you know, we already have armed security. We have, it's not, the transfer center is not the place to make your statement. You know, if you feel a certain way, then write your congressman, go down to the courthouse and do, but, you know, the transportation, we're trying to get people to and from work and school and church and all the things they're going to, and this is not the place for a political statement. And I think society and the public kind of see that, because we haven't had a single incident yet. Knock on wood.
Mr. Niebuhr.
Thank you. One follow-up question on the assaults. You said it was, without looking at the data, you think it might have been somebody spitting or something to that effect. Do we, I guess, do we refer even anything that we characterize as an assault, do we refer that to law enforcement for follow-up?
Absolutely. If it's a criminal act, we refer them to law enforcement. The operators as well, if, you know, the operations supervisor on duty will give them the opportunity, if they, you know, if they don't feel comfortable finishing the day, we'll remove them from the route so they can, you know, gather the thoughts and go home and take the rest of the day off. That's generally the case. And we offer EAP if there's any, you know, if there's any lingering, you know, if they feel a certain way, or, you know, then we offer them, you know, anything we have at our disposal. So
Understand that. And so we do refer to law enforcement, even if it's something that's, if we call it an assault, then we most likely, not always, but we give the option to refer it to law enforcement, and we consult with the
Correct.
affected operator and then their supervisors. And then in the back of my brain, I think, well, we discontinued the fare free, and then I could see there being maybe an uptick in frustration that the drivers will experience from a rider who, even though we've communicated it out, they're surprised, they're frustrated, they express themselves in a way that isn't necessarily a way that they would be proud of, and then they do something. So we started that on January 5th. Is the data responsive enough? Do we get insight in other words, in the last week, have we seen anything, or is it just too short of a time?
I haven't seen anything yet. It may be too short of a time. And then sometimes, you know, we'll have, you know, some data or something to come in, but it won't be directly because of that. It may be the reason, but that's not what ultimately, you know, was discussed, or what the person, you know, did to, you know, to exacerbate things. But that's something that we'll be monitoring. I know that, you know, marketing and stuff have done a phenomenal job of informing the public, but like you said, there's sometimes people either didn't see it, missed it, or think they can just, you know, get over on.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else? I have one question. What is HART's policy with regard to firearms and passengers who may be carrying them?
So at this time, in accordance with the state law, employees are forbidden from carrying firearms on duty, but customers may carry into any of the public areas. So not into any of the facilities inside the employee areas, but on the transfer centers and the buses, they are constitutionally protected to carry open carry. Or concealed, obviously, if,
Okay.
you know.
All right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next presentation is an update on the operation absentee and attendance policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and CEO Drainville. This presentation is a follow-up to information that was shared with the board by CEO Drainville earlier this month in response to some public comments made by employees relative to employee and operational challenges that are directly impacted by employee availability. Today's presentation is about availability, service reliability, and fairness to customers, to taxpayers, and to the employees who show up for work every day. Employee availability drives service reliability and cost. This is a nationwide issue across the transit industry. Today we will share what we're seeing and clarify legal protections versus management responsibilities, as well as outlining a plan to improve availability by 10% in 2026. Attendance is not just an operations and HR issue. It directly drives whether buses run on time, whether overtime costs rise, and whether the customer experience is adversely affected. We should note we are improving, but the system remains fragile. Over the last 4 years, we've seen an improvement of 2.7%, which shows that the improvement matters, and it also shows that management recognizes the problem and is focusing on the problem. Next, please. I'm sorry, Danielle. Transit across the nation is experiencing national pressures relative to manpower. There's high turnover, difficulty recruiting and retaining operators, as well as an aging workforce doing a physically demanding job. Transit agencies typically experience 2 to 4 times higher utilization of the Family Medical Leave Act than non-transit industries. This chart shows you some of the difficulties that HART is experiencing, both recruiting and retaining new employees. For example, in FY25, we hired 82 new employees, but we separated through either retirement or termination 111, which results in a net loss of 29 operators. We're currently operating below our budgeted headcount due to high turnover and difficulty with recruiting and retention. Fewer operators means more overtime, and more importantly, it requires operators who are here to do more of the work. Next, please. So as I said, FMLA utilization is having a major impact on the organization. As of right now, 263 of the 442 active operators currently use the Family Medical Leave Act. That's approximately 60% of the workforce. Now, the Family Medical Leave use is legally protected, and we comply with the law, and we do not discipline employees for FMLA utilization. It should also be noted that FMLA utilization at HART is consistent with national transit norms and trends. However, I would like to say that it has a greater impact here at HART due to the fact that a lot of our routes run every hour. So if we take a trip out due to an availability issue, now we're going 2 hours without a bus on a given route. So that could really have a significant impact in an individual customer's experience. Also, as I noted earlier, we are operating below our budgeted headcount on fixed route, for example, by 20 operators. So that's even less of a surplus that we have to cover work that's left open by employee availability or lack thereof. So the reality is we still need to cover the work regardless of the reason. Protected absences are covered, but coverage typically requires overtime and forced assignments, which has major quality of life impacts, again, on the employees that do come to work, and that causes them additional stress and burnout, at which results more often than not in them requiring some additional time off. Next. Operators typically receive 78 sick hours annually and 2.5 to 4.5 weeks of vacations depending on their tenure. Today, 49% of our operators have less than 8 hours sick time available in their bank. When employees exhaust their sick leave banks, they face a choice. They can either miss work and not receive pay, or they can come to work sick, which is certainly something that we don't want. Leave benefits are finite, but the service must be run every day. Next. So this slide shows you that we have a serious concentration of absences amongst a certain percentage of the workforce. So 38% of employees account for 73% of all the absences that we have at HART. We have 125 employees missed 40 or more days, accounting for 58% of all missed days, and we have 64 employees that missed between 30 and 39 days. Availability changes, again, are highly concentrated. This concentration matters because even in a system that's improving, it leaves very little margin for error, and that's where we find ourselves. Again, we have to run the service, so this results, again, in employees having to work overtime, being required to come in on their day off, potentially. It also requires the supervisors to spend a lot of time managing or micromanaging, in some cases, this issue. And again, most importantly, and something I want to really want to hammer home, is that the employees who come to work on a regular basis share a disproportionate burden to get the work done. Next. So the collective bargaining agreement provides for flexibility for illness and life events. The collective bargaining agreement, as it relates to management's ability to really legislate or police attendance, to be frank, is a little lenient. This is something that was a major point of negotiations this past go-around, and we were able to make some improvements, but there's still, you have up to 6 instances before you actually, your job is in jeopardy. So it's, there's a lot of opportunity within the collective bargaining agreement for employees to be absent from work. Regardless of where the absence falls in the progression and whether it is paid or unpaid, protected or not, again, we still need to cover the work and make sure that the buses roll and that the paravans roll. Accountability and compassion are not opposite. They need to coexist as we try and manage this issue. So finally, the path forward, what are we doing to improve? So we're focusing on areas where management can reasonably and responsibly influence the outcome. So we're going to implement an employee care program whereby management stays in contact with employees who've shown an over propensity for not being able to come to work, and try to address these issues early on before they become, regular, long-standing issues. If there are anything in terms of support that we can provide the employee, whether that's, employee counseling, whether that's medical, whatever it may be, these are things that proactive steps that we want to take. And of course, we want to continue to be consistent and fair with the application of the collective bargaining agreement as it relates to attendance. But the goal is to be able to sustain reliable service for our customers. This approach is not about punishment. It's about trying to achieve a balance between compassion and accountability, and at the end of the day, delivering service to our customers while also supporting the employees. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions from the committee.
Chair recognizes Director Williams.
Thank you for the presentation. Excellent. Facts tell the picture. This is data, and it says what's happening. And the situation is far worse than what I could have ever imagined, to have almost half of your staff out in any given point, and to see the impact it would have on, bless you, on the people that are there and present. So you may have an issue where people are absent and there is turmoil from that aspect, but then you also are going to receive that similar feedback from people that are forced to work more, and they are present as a result of the impact of absenteeism. And I'm not talking absenteeism because someone's doing something wrong or they're misusing the process or anything. I'm just taking the facts as they are. You're either here or you're not. And I'm going to assume that everything is legit, and it is the process that's taking place. But at the end of the day, when I look at the numbers, if you could take me back some, Danielle, to maybe 3-4 pages back, where it basically said 200 and one more page. 263 of 442, and that's absences that you don't even you may incorporate them in your overall absenteeism, but they aren't counted against the employee for the, based on their overall absenteeism rate that causes them to be disciplined. And, but at the same time, that's 263 of 442. Actually, I thought it was 50%. It's actually 60% of the workforce. And so you're going to have burnout for those that are present. So they have to
Right.
make up for that 60%.
Right.
And then if you go forward, please, Danielle, if you don't mind. The sick time could be a part of that FML, right?
Yes,
Okay, so this is based on a rolling year, I'm assuming.
correct, every 12
That,
months.
right, so 50% of the team, it's 49%, has already used most of their sick time.
Right. Yeah, and one of the issues that we're seeing, and I think that was referenced at one of the recent board meetings by an employee, this notion of forcing, quote unquote, people to come to work when they're ill.
Right.
This provision, ironically enough, relating to sick time and not being subject to discipline was suggested by the union during negotiations and agreed upon by management. And it's turned out, unfortunately for them, I don't think to really be working in the spirit that they thought it might, because there's like I said, so much of the workforce does not have what I would consider to be a robust sick bank in the event, God forbid, something happened and they needed to be out for a long period of time. So that's something, again, that management is trying to stress through, joint labor management meetings and so forth, that people need to be more judicious with their sick time when they earn it, not to earn 8 hours and use 8 hours, which seems to be, of course, not amongst the entire workforce, but a portion of the workforce seems to have that mindset where, if it's there, I better use it rather than put it away for a rainy day. So this is all part of, the education process that we're trying to embark on. But to your, another thing about FMLA that is really difficult, or makes things difficult for management staff to manage, is something called intermittent FMLA, right? So, I think when FMLA first began, it was like, I'm gonna be out 3 months, I'm gonna have a baby, I'm gonna be on FMLA. We as managers could plan for that, strategically. But when it's intermittent and you get the call at 11 o'clock the night before and the operator's supposed to be on a bus at 5 o'clock in the morning, it makes it that much more challenging. And I referenced the 20 bus operators that were short. Those bus operators would help to comprise what we call an extra board. And an extra board is basically a surplus of operators that you have specifically for this reason, to kind of plug into unexpected, occurrences as they happen last minute. And our ability to do that, by virtue of the fact that our head count is not where it needs to be, makes our flexibility that much less.
Right. Yes, I can understand that. I can see that. If you move forward, Danielle, one more page for me, please. 38%, so 40% of the employees are 73% of the absences. And then I think one more page, I think for me, we don't have enough staff to accommodate the number of absences. It's not, I want to say it this way, but it's not, we can't afford to have people on staff just on standby to accommodate the number of absences. And I'm just saying, just going to assume that all of it is accurate. You're absent because you need to be absent and so forth. I'm not even talking about investigations, discipline and so forth. And this is an issue that is, for you to get 99% on time, I think it was, run rates and the numbers that you're achieving is significant. I mean, just profound for you to make that happen. But I think this is a conversation that has to be handled between employees and the staff. And to have this information been covered with employees to say, look, you know, this is what's happening, and what is the answer to this scenario?
Yeah, so we have engaged in a number of kind of mini town halls recently, kind of a byproduct of the employee survey that we saw, and we are sharing this information. You know, as you can imagine, it isn't always received, you know, well, but we are trying to, you know, without being adversarial, we're trying to make these meetings as productive and as amiable as we can. But we are sharing this as a concern. We share it with the union leadership. You know, they are aware. It's no, because again, the impact on the other employees is prevalent, right? There are people there that are being forced to work one of their days off, or, you know, this is very evident on the paratransit side, for example. You know, if I typically come in and I have to pick up 8 people, and all of a sudden the operator next to me isn't able to make it to work for whatever reason, now all of a sudden I have to pick up 12 people, right? So my quality of life while I'm at work just went from a fairly reasonable day to a really difficult day. And, you know, if that was a one-off, that would be one thing, but when it happens with a level of frequency, all of a sudden that employee now says, you know, this is tough. So, yeah, but to answer your question, yes, we are sharing it with the workforce.
And that's short term as well, because if someone has to work extra, you have to do it immediately. You have to work that day because of the situation. And then, is there a recognition program for people who are present, or some type of acknowledgement of good absenteeism?
Again, we, as a result of the survey, we are starting to amp up our employee recognition program. We have a program called On the Spot, which is, you know, not overly formal, but kind of, you know, instinctive, intuitive, that we're doing once a month, or a minimum of once a month, I should say, across not just operations, but the organization.
Okay. Well, clearly, this is an issue and it's profound, and as I'm stating, I'm not being accusatory of anyone. The results speak for themselves. This is data, and it's significant, and it could potentially, this is significant to the operation as a whole. I'll stop there. Thanks.
The chair recognizes Director Niebrich.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of follow-up comments. And 78 per year, if I'm a full-time employee, I will earn 78 hours of sick time per year, but the average balance is 8 hours or less. So 70 hours per year are being consumed. Do any remaining hours from the previous year carry over?
Yes.
They do, okay. And even though they carry over, we're still at an average of 8%. Would it be possible in the data to, effectively, we're much worse off than just 20 short. We have 20 FTEs short, but when you take into consideration the absenteeism for any reason, the effective number is maybe something like 30, 40, or 50 people short, exasperating the issue that's trying to be managed. We just ratified the 2 CBAs, and not to put the cart before the horse, but it would be helpful to understand maybe over the next year before we re-enter negotiations, what solutions might exist that could be part of that negotiating strategy to shape the behavior in a more productive way than what we're experiencing now. And then I have to assume, and I just want to clarify it through the presenting of this question, that when we do call somebody in to work overtime, or if we force a shift upon them involuntarily, that there's a pay override that they receive. Of course, that gives us budgetary impact, which we don't necessarily like, but we have to absorb, but we do that. And then going back to a comment that you made, that if we were fully staffed, effectively fully staffed at the number of FTEs that we have, we'd have the personnel capacity to what I would call as a reserve. You used a different term.
An improved capacity, for sure, absolutely, yes.
When somebody, in that view, when somebody's in a standby status, is that a paid status that they have? Okay. And then everything else kind of goes to some of the programs that I guess we're early in implementing, which are how do we encourage you to maybe not be absent when you don't really need to be absent, and how do we educate you that there's a bigger impact than on just you. It impacts your coworkers, it impacts the public. So I understand that there's a sensitivity there, and it's
Right.
kind of a long strategy to try to help with that issue.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely agree.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Director Hartfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sean, when you say operators, we mean what?
Primarily fixed route drivers,
Okay.
paratransit drivers, and, to a lesser extent, streetcar operators.
Okay, okay, very good. Have you developed, and I know you relatively new, but have we developed a tool to speak to organizational culture and start to make sure that, based on what you inherited, to start shifting that paradigm and shifting culture within the organization? Have you developed a tool, or are you looking into something like that?
Well, we think this process, again, which is, in its infancy, of interacting with the employees, on a more personal level, again, that's, it's going to be interesting to see how that's received, right? One employee could see that as being compassionate, while another employee may see that as being invasive, right? And, as you well know, when you get into medical information and things of that nature, there are thresholds that we certainly don't want to breach. But yeah, we haven't brought in, anybody from the outside to speak or anything along those lines. But I think this approach, at least we as a leadership team hope that this approach will be seen by the workforce as, a compassionate, proactive step on our behalf, where we're interested less in any punitive outcomes, and we're interested more in increasing our productivity, thereby enhancing the customer experience. So, that is our goal. We're still kind of working on exactly the delivery method, but that is the goal, to make them understand how critical a role, the average employee may not necessarily understand that they, in a vacuum, have an adverse impact on the operation if they're not there. And that's our job, to explain to them that in the aggregate, if there's 10 or 15 people who feel that way, then all of a sudden that seriously deteriorates, what we're trying to accomplish. So as in most things, it's a communication strategy, and something we're working very hard on.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be you have to play the long game on that. It's not going to be a short turnaround or a short fix. But I do think it's something we have to be intentional about. One of the things that I did within my organization is we came up with this concept of the Serenity Way. And we identified culturally 3 to 5 points that made us Serenity. I think that helped in terms of my administration and my staff identifying what was clearly important for me in how we serve our clients, our community, and our staff. So they understood what the Serenity Way was or is. So for HART, with a great name like HART, what's the HART way? And that's a rhetorical question, so I'm not asking for an answer, but what is the HART way? How do we serve our clients, our community, and our staff? I think that has to be an integral part of the conversation moving forward. And then the second part of that, and we noticed this shift as we came out of COVID, there was a question mentioned or brought up to the CEO of Microsoft. And the question was, how do people work at Microsoft, right? And what would that look like for the next 20 years? And his response was, our paradigm has shifted. No longer do we ask, how do you work at Microsoft? Our question has to be, how does Microsoft work for you? So my question again to the CEO and to you, Sean, is how does HART work for our staff? How does it work for our community? And how does it work for the clients that we serve? So just some thoughts as it relates to where you're going. I certainly respect and know that you'll get it done. But it's definitely going to be a long game and an intentional effort. And you have the 2 CBAs that you have to navigate around. So I definitely want to be a part of the solution. So anything that I could do to support you and Mr. Drainville in that, please let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good report. I know that the leadership team is very focused on this whole issue all up and down the line because it affects every one of the functional areas of HART. It's good information, and with the information, gives you guys a way a direction to move forward with. So, anything that we can do as a committee, as a board, just let us know. But it's definitely requires a change in attitude by the employees. And I wonder how much of the CBA throttles that, not just the nature of the beast itself. It tends to make it more difficult. But this is a heck of a hill to try to climb. But this is a good it's a good step. At least you can identify what many of the issues are, and then you can work through it. So thank you. It's a good report. Appreciate it.
All right. Sean, thank you. It's been an excellent report. I do have kind of a question I'd like to clarify, and maybe you addressed this, but I think I might have missed it. To what extent do you feel like the absenteeism we're experiencing is related to stress-related issues versus purely medical-related issues?
I would say it's probably 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear, quite often from our colleagues in labor that the resulting stress that employees are under, that their inability or not wanting to come to work is directly related to that, meaning that they may not necessarily have a traditional illness, but the burden of the day before or the couple of days before requires them to just take, for lack of a better word, a mental health day. So we do believe that, in addition to traditional, medical issues, that just because let's be honest with each other. Driving a bus is the most difficult job in transit, bar none. Nothing even close. And it does take its toll on the employees. And that's on a good day, all things being equal. Mm-hmm. But when you add kind of these variables that we have, where we're asking people to do more, in some cases substantially more, to compensate for a lack of available manpower or workforce, that just exacerbates the problem. And that's, in my opinion, the more controllable of the two components. The medical thing, people are gonna get sick. That's part of life.
All right, well, is there anything that we can do that would facilitate being able to help them manage the stress?
We just did very interesting, for I think the first time in the history that I have been here, dating back to 2019, an emotional wellness training, which had a participation rate of 99%. It touched some behavioral health issues, and it came back with a tremendous, I would say, positive feedback from employees. So we are definitely going to continue to look at training like that. That really, it was very targeted at understanding the pressures of being a frontline employee. Mm-hmm. With that said, we are looking at deeper partnerships with Cigna to bring in things like hand massages, neck massages, and we always have EAP, so that's an option. But we're trying to tie everything back to the employee survey and those stresses, and building strategies that we can continue to do. You know, we've done the Cigna things ad hoc. How can we do that once a month so employees start to look forward to it? So those are the types of things that we're looking to bring to employees. We rolled out the results to them in December, I believe, and we had 90 days to go back to them with what our plan is going to be for the year. So that's in development.
Thank you, that's very good to know. No doubt we'll be redressing this issue from time to time. Thank you.
I just got one more comment.
Yes, please go
I
ahead.
think that's phenomenal. Driving a bus is got to be stressful, and you just never know which personality you're going to get from one person at any given time, and understanding that you are the emotional training and just understanding the magnitude of where your issues lie, not just you just have a attendance problem, but where you can really divulge or get deeper and get some additional assistance or take action. The things that you're doing now will be very good to share with the board, the larger board, to see that, so they see the actions that you're taking from an emotional standpoint, from understanding data, the action you take on the spot and so forth, that it just is not falling on deaf ears, that people are absent and we're not cognizant of the impact that it may have, to someone who's dealing with things outside of, in their job or outside of the job. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, the next item on the agenda is the community action item. Recommendation that HART Board of Directors authorize the HART CEO to execute necessary amendments to the tri-party agreement between Hillsborough Transit Authority, Hillsborough Historic Streetcar Incorporated, and Friends of Ybor Incorporated for the lease and maintenance of the Bernie Streetcar number 163. Ms. Bailey will be making a presentation on this action item. Ms. Bailey.
Good morning, everyone. Okay. With respect to this request, just some key facts. Bernie number 163 was built in 1922 and donated to HART in 2018. But is no longer in service. Well, it's no longer in revenue service as a result of its age. Friends of Ybor, THS, as well as HART entered into a tri-party agreement to allow the Bernie number 163 to be displayed in a museum back in December of 2023. The original agreement required the Friends of Ybor to submit plans and specifications depicting the exhibition space within 1 year. This provision was since extended in August of 2025 due to design delays, and now they seek to amend for the same reason. But at this time, we're actually asking that this committee authorize CEO Drainville to execute all necessary amendments with respect to this tri-party agreement that is in place to allow for the lease and maintenance of the Bernie number 163.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion before the committee to authorize CEO Drainville to execute all necessary agreements relative to Bernie Streetcar number 163. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Director Hartfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will we incur any additional costs or exposure as it relates to this?
No risk or exposure for HART, no.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes. Okay, next item is including in the Finance Committee packet is the update for the heavy maintenance facility. If the committee has any questions about the report, please respond. Okay, if there are no questions, this concludes our regular business. Is there any old business? Any new business? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.